Evening. Welcome to the Monday, April 28, 2025 meeting of the Westport Select Board. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. Just a couple of announcements are, just want to remind people the town meeting is next week, so Tuesday, May 6th at 7 p.m. At the new middle high school. Come make your vote be heard at town meeting. We have a couple of acknowledgements here, so I'm going to start with Manny asked to recognize John Andrews.
Okay, so John Andrews is a veteran that turned 100 February 13th. He was actually born in a house 92 Union Ave 100 years ago. I know him as Uncle Johnny, and he's my grandmother's last sibling that all grew up at that location. But Uncle Johnny was on, I guess it was called the Artemis class attack cargo ship in service from 1945 to 46. She was scrapped in 1966. So another key point, they call the AKA-43. And his wife, who passed away, before him, I got a date here. I think it was 10 years ago. But one of the things that they did is they traveled the country, and she took the minutes for 13 reunions throughout the country. And I'm looking forward to holding a fundraiser at the Holy Ghost Club as soon as I can find some dates for the veterans. And I don't know if Uncle Johnny's going to be able to come down because he spent most of his life in Connecticut, and right now it's, he's 100. So if he can, if not, we're looking to have a fundraiser for to support all the veterans from Westport.
All right, thank you. Happy birthday, John Andrews. And now we want to recognize Paul Schmid. Paul, you want to come forward?
Oh, heavens.
What a surprise, right? So we're a little late in acknowledging Paul, but we didn't want you to go out into the sunset of your public service career without acknowledging you. So I'm going to read the plaque that we have. Be it known that the Westport Select Board hereby expresses its appreciation to Paul A. Schmid III. It is with great pleasure and a sense of pride that the Westport Select Board presents you with this official citation in appreciation of your many years of outstanding service to the town and its residents. In recognition of your term of office as the town's state representative from 2010 to 2024, and for your cooperation and unselfish donation of your time and energy to issues near and dear to the residents of the town. On behalf of the citizens of the town of Westport, the Select Board is proud to extend its sincere appreciation to Paul and wish him all the best in the future and many happy and healthy years of enjoyment in his retirement.
Goodness gracious. Thank you very much. Can somebody take a picture? Thank you. Thank you very much. So, normally it's me who gives the citations, but
Come scooch around so they can get
this one is very meaningful.
This is our first picture with the new desk, so we don't have it all arranged.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank
go
you
ahead.
very
Go
much.
ahead.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I just say that it has been a privilege to serve Westport for these past 14 years as a state representative. I've been very lucky to have been able to partner with Michael Rodrigues, and we've tried to do our best. Before that, I sat here with you as a selectman. That was myself, Craig Dutra, Steve Willett, who's gone on to serve as state representative, Gary Mock, and the late Richard Sprillett. We really miss him.
Gary passed away also, didn't he?
Did Gary pass?
Yes.
Well, I apologize for overlooking that. I did not know that. That was a great board. And before that, like many people, I served on the FinCom And I just pulled out the report from 2005 that we gave as a FinCom. And it was signed by myself as chair, by Chuck Goldberg as vice chair, Lisa Arnold, Jack Bourne, the late Jack Bourne, Bob McCarthy, Rocket, greatly missed, Warren Messier, we wish him the best, John Miller, remember John?
Yeah.
He was a world-renowned scientist. And whenever somebody in town meeting would say to the FinCom, well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand this stuff. And we would say, yes, but we do have a rocket scientist. Pat Szyminski and Max Turner. And going way back, after I helped Claude Ledoux get elected to selectman in 1972, he put me on a master plan committee. You can look it up. And that's just to, so those are just some of the names that I had the honor of serving with, along with many men and women in blue and our first responders. We appreciate what they do. And I just mention all those names just to point out that I think here in Westport, we're very lucky to have an extraordinary tradition of public servants. And it's been an honor to be one of them. And I thank all who will continue that service in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I'd like to get back to work.
You go with the cows.
Right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda, we have a request from the Westport Holy Ghost Club for one-day all alcohol beverage licenses for Saturday, May 10, for a clam boil from 4 to 9. Saturday, May 17, a concert from 3 to 9. So we have received a favorable police report, and this is a location where we give a lot of these to. So is there any questions from the board?
Move approval? Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from the Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development District, SERPID, to appoint James Hartnett as the representative and Michael Burris as the alternate to the Joint Transportation Planning Group, JTPG. You willing to serve in that capacity?
Sure.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that appointment. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from the Cemetery Department to appoint Eric Hoffman with a start date of 4/29 and Antonio Correa, start date of 5/12 as part-time seasonal laborers. Do you want to tell us about this one, Jim?
Yeah, I did meet with Michael Brulot, who interviewed both candidates. Their applications are part of the packet. Both have experience working in the cemetery or landscaping, seasonal employment. We usually do this, we do this yearly. Grass is going to start coming up soon, so we're looking to get them on as quick as we can. I'd recommend approval.
Thank you. With pleasure.
Motion to approve. Second.
Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. And now all these people are here for the police department, so I want to welcome Police Chief Christopher Dunn. Hope someone's out there on the streets.
Yes, there are. They're at an accident right now, as a
Oh,
matter
no,
of fact,
that's
yes. Believe everybody's enjoying the weather today.
Beautiful.
I was here last time talking about filling of open vacancies and how we had Officer Tristan Costa from Florida Police Department transferred over. We're continuing that process tonight. We have two excellent candidates to be in front of the board. They had numerous evaluations. We're very excited to have them hopefully join our department. They've already done a background check. We've done the psychological. We've done the physical examination. The last thing is a contingent offer of employment from the board tonight. So there's a police academy coming in August in Randolph. This is the next one up. which is going to be highly competitive with the likes of Brockton, Braintree, Weymouth, Fall River, New Bedford. So it's very key, if there's a vote here this evening, we can get a contingent offer of employment so we could finish all the requisites. So tonight, I'd like to present to the board Zachary Berby. He holds a bachelor's degree from Johnson & Wales University in criminal justice. He's employed as interior installer at Lazaro General Contracting. He resides in Westport with his fiancee. So this is Mr. Berby, and also Mr. Joseph Yearden. He holds a bachelor's degree from Bridgewater State in criminal justice and is employed as a security officer at McLean Hospital. He's married and he lives in New Bedford, and we did talk to him about residing within 15 miles, so he's aware of that. So I'm just respectfully requesting the board to vote contingent offer of employment for Mr. Zachary Berby and Mr. Joseph Yearden this evening.
Jim, do you have a recommendation?
Recommend approval.
I move approval. Second.
Is there any discussion? Did you guys want to say anything? You don't have to. No? Okay. All right, so
It's okay.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Welcome aboard. Good luck with the
Congratulations.
training. And we have some more.
We do. This is exciting for us, for our department. We were in front of the board almost a year to date last year, asking for a contingent offer of employment for Andrew Silva and Justin DeSilva. And I'm here in front of the board this evening requesting their appointment for full-time police officers. They completed a 20-week full-time police academy. They went through 12 weeks of in-service field training. They're prepared to serve our community. It's not only we should recognize both officers here this evening, but also their families. It's very important to see the support here, with their families here this evening. They were here last year at this time. They were here at their graduation, and they're here again this evening. So I think a round of applause goes to their family here for the continued support, not only for Officer Silva and Jet Silva, but also for their families. So with that being said, I'm respectfully requesting the board to vote Officer Andrew Silva and Officer Justin DeSilva to the rank of a full-time police officer for our Westport Police Department.
All right, thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Are they here?
They are. Oh, please, stand up. Gentlemen.
Welcome, gentlemen. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Welcome aboard. So Chief, I don't think you had anything else on the agenda, but is there anything else you wanted to share with the community about what's going on with the police department?
Yes, so we've still attended events. We had veteran police officers, military veterans, had coffee with veterans recently. We'll have officers at the Stroke Buddy and Friends event this weekend at the Westport Senior High School, which helps with stroke awareness. And we're gearing up for the summer. The summer's right around the corner. Memorial Day Parade, we'll be here before you know it, and then we kick off with our summer.
All right, thank you. So you're all welcome to stay, but I'm guessing that you're probably going to walk out. I'm just asking that you don't talk in the hallway. Go downstairs, okay?
Great.
But you can stay, too. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
I
coming.
appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good luck.
They actually filed out quite quietly. It's- So we're on 4A. We have a request to authorize the town administrator to accept and sign the contract for the municipal aggregation program. You want to tell us what this is?
So this is a program that's been offered, I want to say at least 4 or 5 years now. Residents are automatically signed up for this program. They can opt out if they choose, but the rates are, and they have been much lower going through this program, electrical rates, than if they acquired or went through Eversource themselves directly. So it's a good program for the residents. It's saved the town residents significant amount of money over the years. It does go out to bid every couple of years, and we're at that point where they're going to go out to bid again. There's 25 communities that make up this purchasing program, so it gives us some purchasing power with just the number of communities that are involved. There'll be a pre-bid meeting on May 5th, and bid opening will be on May 7th. They have to sign the contract immediately that day, just to lock in the rates. So They need all 25 communities to agree and sign. So I'm asking the board to authorize me to sign in your place, so you don't have to
You don't have to have a special.
attend the meeting and have a special meeting.
So our packets had 3 different contracts, right? So those are the 3 bidders?
Yeah, so they have Direct Energy, Constellation, and Dynegy that have all put in bids for this process. And my understanding is they've all been vetted beforehand, and these are the 3 companies that they've requested to put bids in for this updated program.
Are there any questions? No? All right, what's the desire of the board?
Madam Chair, I'd recommend we approve the signing.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize the town administrator to accept and sign the contract for the municipal aggregation program once the bids are open. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Caitlin Fay, the 4th of July Parade Committee, to hold the annual parade. Might need to hit the button on that one. There we go. Welcome, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Caitlin Fay.
I'm Becky Anderson Brusels.
And what brings you here today?
We're asking to close the road for the 4th of July Day Parade. Same route as all the other years. Nothing's changed. 9.
Close at 9, and we should be done at the high school around 12, like we usually do. The police officers show up about 8 to help us with just traffic control, and then we are done pretty much around 11:30, quarter to 12. We're hoping you guys will join us.
We do.
We had a great turnout last year.
Yeah.
Even long, we were still done in that timeline.
Yeah, great. Jim, do you have a recommendation?
It's consistent with what they've done in previous years. It's a great event. I recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
At the same time, we're also asking for your help from the board for the police officers' detail pay. You guys have graciously done that in the past, so we're hoping the board could help us do that as well.
I think we should do whatever we've been doing.
Okay.
We'll do, yeah. Anybody have any problem with that? Whatever we've been doing. I thank you for putting it on. I think that's a really great event for Westport. A lot of people think the town puts it on, but it isn't the town, it's you all that do it. It's
Yeah,
delightful.
a lot of
Yeah.
private funding, so that one helps.
If people want to learn more, if people want to make a donation, where should they go?
I will go home tonight and post it on Facebook, but right now you can mail checks to the Westport 4th of July Parade Committee to 296 Indiana Town Road in Westport. Any and all donations are welcome.
Yeah.
$1, $5, whatever you want to give, it helps us pay our expenses for the parade. And we hope for a great turnout, a sunny day. Today would have been a perfect day for
They
it.
would have been perfect. Order that. Yes.
What about floats?
Float same as usual. So the parade, any and all,
No
We don't have to-
pre-sign up.
We don't have to, okay.
no.
Yep, no
pre-sign-up.
pre-sign up, just show up that morning. We'll sign you up when you get there. We've got volunteers with clipboards.
And, yeah, we're up and down the street all morning.
And you have to ride after Charlotte.
After Charlotte Wright Road, everybody has to ride. So if you're gonna walk, you can walk until Charlotte White Road, but then you need to arrange some type of transportation from Charlotte to the high school.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So we'll see you guys on the 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda was whether we wanted to make any warrant recommendations. So I'm just going to leave it to so what you have, this is the final version, right, that we have in front of
The
us?
final version, yes.
So we have the final version of the warrant with the FinCom recommendations on it. We went through them at our last meeting, just a super high level. I don't think we have any specific things to bring up. Are there any questions about any of the articles, any that we want to highlight?
Just Article 10, and we make the correction, so in the motion, it'll pick it up, but the salaries, we had listed at 233, and that was actually the total, so the salary should be 176,899, so we will address that in the motion.
Okay, so that's Article 10, that the motion is different, but that's intentional. Article 14, I haven't heard very many people talking about this one, but Article 14 proposes to increase the local room occupancy excise tax. So we currently have a local room tax of 4%, and we are allowed to raise it up to 6%. It's about $100,000 per percent, so that's one of the proposals. Are there any others anybody want to talk about or mention? The short-term rental one has been significantly changed since last year. That one's pretty straightforward now. Okay. All right, if nobody wants to talk, we can move on. Anything, so the town, so it will be, we're going to post for 6:30 for this meeting. We usually have KP Law here for 6:30.
Yes, they'll be there.
All right, so we'll post for 6:30 on May 6th. The town meeting is at 7 at the new middle high school. Okay, all right, that's it for the warrant then. 5A, we have a discussion. So we have David Dorsky had asked to be put on the agenda. So Mr. Dorsky, you want to come forward? Welcome.
Thank you.
So what brings you here?
Well, I sent a letter to the planning board regarding the planning board's recent approval of a subdivision proposal called Marcotte Drive that would create a potentially unsafe, non-conforming intersection with Drift Road in place of the cart path between 278 and 312 Drift Road that's used to access the town pit. The planning board had initially voted unanimously to deny the proposal out of safety concerns, specifically the intersection, but reversed their decision under pressure from the applicant. With this new approval, the planning board has granted a waiver that will allow unacceptably short sight distances for vehicles approaching the intersection from the south on Drift Road and for vehicles exiting Marcotte Drive. There's a good reason that there are already warning signs and mirrors at that site. There is limited sight distance for the vehicles accessing the town pit. Now, the process by which the planning board reversed its initial denial is complicated, and I don't think we have time to discuss it completely. However, part of their reason for reversing their decision was information provided by the applicant in the form of a report that was delivered by an individual who was not licensed as a civil engineer, nor was he certified as a transportation engineer. The planning board, for its peer review, hired a firm that does not represent itself as involved in transportation engineering, but is limited to geotechnical engineering. And they did not perform a field assessment. Local residents understand that the proposed construction will lead to traffic accidents at the Marcotte Drive intersection because the distances, sight distances are too short for the prevailing traffic conditions. There was an enormous community turnout at the public hearing over this specific issue, and it was so great that the meeting had to be moved from the town hall annex to the public library. So I and we, the community, local community, believe that the planning board erred in its decision and that the safety of the proposed intersection should be revisited, and the town should commission a study by licensed civil engineers with certification in transportation engineering to comment on the wisdom of approving this intersection and or potential mitigation of the danger, potential danger of this intersection. I believe that it would be a good idea for the Select Board to commission a study by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. It's called a road safety audit. And I've investigated this a little bit through speaking with the state safety engineer, Bonnie Poland. And therefore, if the town requests that the state perform this study, it can be done. Now, I was somewhat misinformed. It's not entirely without cost. I don't know what the cost is. I don't think it would be free, but I think it would be in the best interest of the community to address this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. So looked like you pretty well followed the letter that we all had in our packet. Jim, do you want to, you did some looking into this.
Yeah, and I did speak to Mr. Dorsky last week. I did check with Mass DOT, Bonnie Poland. They do some traffic audits, but they do traffic audits on streets where there's been high crash rates or significant safety concerns. This road does not fall in that category, at least it doesn't fall in now, but it doesn't fall in that category, so they would not do the audit. She did say that she would assist if the town wanted to hire an engineer and have an audit done. We would be responsible for paying for that audit. She said she could look at the scope of work and just make sure it includes things that they normally include when they do the work. I know this went before the planning board. The subdivision's approved. I know the appeal period is over, so that subdivision is in place. I don't think the safety audit would change the approval of the existing subdivision. She said what the potential audit could do is maybe it comes up where there's some suggestions in the audit where there's some additional striping in the road, or that there's some signs put up saying, you know, curve ahead, or some other things that may improve the safety. But overall, the road's pretty limited as to what you can do without significant expenses. It's my understanding, and I think Mr. Whiten's here so he can clarify, but through the planning board process, the applicant did hire VHB Engineering, which is a traffic, one of the divisions in VHB, and they're a big company, is a traffic engineering portion of their company. And the letter or the report was stamped and signed by a professional engineer that does traffic analysis. That report was reviewed by the peer consultant, S.W. Cole. S.W. Cole hires a local professional engineer to do a lot of their reviews for them. And you're absolutely right, S.W. Cole is more now of a material type testing company that they used to be more, but they've kind of scaled back, but they still hire on, as a consultant basis, local professional engineers that review subdivisions for the community. So Mr. Poyant did review the traffic study and felt that it met the requirements. Mr. Whiten's here if he has anything else that. So,
yeah, I think you have covered it pretty much, Jim. The issues of whether or not it's safe was our main concern during the deliberation on whether we would approve this subdivision. And as he said, the way that it's been approved is long and complicated. I don't think you have time here tonight to hear the whole story. But they did reduce the number of lots. They do have enough turn radius in their connection with Drift Road to have a legitimate turn radius on the road itself. The other thing that is a possibility is the town of Westport has in their town bylaws, not a zoning bylaw, a sightline bylaw, number 27. And that requires the town to form a safety committee. And that would be one person, the highway surveyor, one of the fence viewers, and one person from the select board. And the triangle is, if you look at the intersection of the road where it hits Drift Road, you go to the center of Drift Road where that connection is, and you go 80 feet in each direction and 80 feet down the new road, and you connect the dots. And the Safety Commission is supposed to determine whether or not there are sightline blockages. And if they determine so, they notify the landowners in question. And they have 7 days to either appeal it or remove the obstructions. And I understand the applicant has applied to the town to have that done because one of the landowners on the south side of the intersection has installed a spite fence because they didn't like this going in, so they put a fence in to further block the view. Jim has sent a letter to them to ask them to remove it. Last time I drove by, it was still there. I don't know if it's gone yet or not. But it also would give the town the opportunity to clear anything else that's obstructing the view of any road going into another road in Westport. And it's something that it states that the town shall do these things. And it's a law in the town. And if somebody asks for it, the town should be able to comply with that.
Thank you. Have we?
Yeah, so we don't have an active committee. Mr. Willett was the select board representative, and I don't believe we have a fence viewer, so we only have one member on that committee. I did send a letter out to the property owner that put the fence up. They came in probably about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. They said they would remove the fence. I thought it would be away from that. I thought it would be down already, but it hasn't been taken down. There's one caveat with that. The way the bylaw reads, it's from a road. Technically, that road hasn't been constructed yet while it's been approved. So, there's question whether or not there's a site distance violation now. We may not be able to address it officially until the road is under construction. But in general, the property owners seemed very willing to take it down. I was surprised it hadn't come down yet.
So I just want to just be careful because we don't have any control over the planning board. The planning board has their processes and their things that they do. But the reason we were talking about this is because Mr. Dorsky made a request that the select board take an action. So that's why we were talking about it. Go ahead, Manny.
So I've been involved in this in a little bit. Jimmy, the woman with the fence, did they happen to ask you if they had, did an attorney get in touch with you?
No, I haven't heard from any attorney.
Because there was an attorney involved in that did negotiations with the developer. So, I mean, I think you should speak with them again and ask them for any of those correspondence on the recommendations that they made. And one of the things I'd like to say about this approval is the developer got a constructive approval on a technicality because we didn't file something correctly. And as far as I know, this was, I've kind of fallen through the cracks here a little bit, but we were in legal with it, and there were certain reasons we were doing things a certain way. And I also keep hearing about the pit. So the pit is, I don't know, how many acres of land does the town own down there?
Offhand, I don't know. 30 acres?
30 acres. So, I mean, I would think that there should be, this is riverfront property, 30 acres behind this already dense subdivision that, we're calling a pit right now. But I think before this goes any further, we should look into some way on what the town's plans are for the town of this piece of property that's on the river. I'd hate to see some developer, try to put some more houses down there on the river. There's a lot of other things that the town could use this property for. And I don't agree that a pit is the correct thing. That's what it was used years ago. And I believe now with the cemetery, the material that was stored there from the high school is going to be removed out of that pit. And environmentally, I don't know, preserve or something. That's what that area should be down there. So I think we should continue with all avenues available to the town. I was in those meetings where, how many people were in the meeting that were opposed to this? And on a technicality, because we didn't file something with the clerk on the right day, they got the approval. And I believe the planning board's intent through legal on this was to bring it to a point where the residents had an opportunity to be able to appeal this constructive approval. So I think right now we need to provide the town of Westport with all the resources we need to make sure that we don't make a mistake with this project.
Mr. White,
So
you
if
want to
I
address
could, if
that?
I could just interject a little bit, the time for appeal is gone. So if if anything, if a new study on the traffic would show that it is dangerous, which I don't think it will, because we've had a traffic study done, and we've had it double-checked by our consulting engineer, and Robert Daler, who is on the board, who's done this a million times, concurred with the traffic study. To stop the subdivision now, you'd have to have a rescission hearing. And I don't think that we would have a leg to stand on to rescind it. And secondly, on the town bylaw, it says this bylaw, this is reading from it, this bylaw is concerning any new or proposed public way. So it isn't, I don't think you have to wait until it's constructed to do this. It's a proposed public way. So I think, from my standpoint, to make it safer would require that the town appoint a fence viewer and have somebody from the select board appointed to the safety commission and the highway surveyor and hold a hearing.
Right, so I think I heard two potential actions that we could take. So one is that you just described is to basically reform that safety committee. So populate the safety committee with representatives and then task them with looking at that from that perspective. And then the other option is commissioning this study that we talked about, but it sounded like for one, we would have to pay for the study, so we'd need to have an idea of how much that costs, but it also sounded unlikely that it would come up with a different answer as to the safety of that intersection. Or it sounded like you weren't optimistic that was going to come up with something different.
My own opinion, I think it would be unlikely that it would impact the existing subdivision. You know, the road is narrow, the shoulders are, you know, they're sloped down to the pavement, so there's not a lot of area for pedestrians to walk or ride your bikes. There's no place to get out of the way. So they may come back with suggestions that, you know, we want you to redo the shoulders, widen the pavement. I mean, there could be a number of suggestions, but I don't think it would impact the subdivision that's already approved.
Madam Chair. I mean, my opinion is that we should have the study done and look towards how to rescind the subdivision based on my feeling that the committee needs to review the minutes of those meetings, because as was stating with the engineers and the inconsistencies in those minutes of the meetings on the traffic study and all that other stuff, it's all there. So to do anything other than a thorough review of this, to move forward to rescind, would be an injustice to the town of Westport.
So we don't have the authority to rescind, right?
I
But we
understand, but the
could,
committee, that's all I'm asking.
you're asking the safety committee to look at that, yeah. Did you have some?
The planning board has to, I believe, Jim?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I think my concern with this entire project from the get-go is trying to figure out, to Manny's point, how this thing failed as badly as it did. It was defeated 5-0 unanimously, this subdivision. And somehow somebody dropped the ball on filing that necessary paperwork. And I don't know who that was or why that occurred, but when you had a unanimous decision from the planning board to deny this subdivision, and then mysteriously it does not get filed by the deadline, which was not the next day, we're talking months afterwards, that should have been done the day after. With the turnout that was at those meetings, with the pushback from the public, something needs to be looked at, and an analysis needs to be conducted as to why. I could see if it was a 3-2 vote. It was 5-0 to not allow the subdivision to move forward. And immediately, the deadline was missed. The developer filed a mortgage the day after, which then basically put the onus on the town. So I'm more concerned with, as I've always discussed, transparency, everything's siloed here. How does that happen when you had 150 residents attend this meeting and get it voted down 5-0 on that planning board, and the necessary paperwork does not get filed?
I can answer that question if you like.
Go ahead.
So it had nothing to do with the final vote. It had to do with a time for extension of a subdivision. We had 120 days from the time they filed to reach a decision. We had them sign an extension in February. And I think it was the second extension, but it didn't get filed with the town clerk, which is part of the subdivision control law. And we went forward and forward, had several meetings after that, at which time we disapproved or denied the subdivision approval. But the way that it was approved by default was because something happened or didn't happen in February. And Amy and Michael are the ones that were supposed to do that. I don't know which one didn't, but both of them were fairly new to the Massachusetts law. But I had asked, have they filed the extension? And they thought I meant, did we have the applicant sign the extension, which we did do. But it didn't get filed in a timely manner.
Madam Chair. So, Jim, I have a question. So if this is all set to be built and we're moving forward to build it, so would that be a reason to make a request to have the executive session minutes released?
I think we did at the meeting that you weren't at.
Okay. All right.
All right, so our scope is limited here, so we can't overturn what the planning board did, but I personally like this idea of the safety committee. I think we should put on our next agenda a posting to populate the safety committee and then send everybody the bylaw sections that pertain to that so that we can all make sure we're briefed on that. And then we form that safety committee next time. Is there, did Craig?
I mean, I concur. I think, and that committee should be able to, maybe we give them a quick time frame to report back to the board, so we don't have this lying around for a while. If there are any other options we could pursue, I'd be more than happy to hear them, but I'm hearing that the safety committee seems to be the most feasible way in the short term to deal with what is the immediate issue being presented tonight, which is safety concerns.
Madam
For
Chair.
pedestrians, drivers, and folks going through that area.
Jake?
My concern with the safety committee is that this could open up a Pandora's box of a lot of issues. You put the safety committee in, and now you're going to have or instruct the highway department to go on people's private property and cut down trees because it's blocking a line of view, or someone's complaining that a bush is in the line of view. You go up and down Drift Road, and I think every other house you could have that situation where this would be brought before the safety committee. So first, personally, I don't want to sit on that safety committee, and then secondly, I think that might have some issues, especially with this subdivision, because there are, private property owners that they were told that their stuff was in the road layout. I mean, there are stone walls in the road layout, there are fences in the road layout, there are bushes, there are trees. I think you're going to have some issues if you start going up people's private property.
Well, I certainly agree. No committee should be going on anybody's private property and removing something. It should follow they should get noticed and appropriate notice. That's why I think we all need to go familiarize ourselves with that bylaw, right? We're not going to, no one's going to go tear down a fence, but you're right that it could lead to more orders to do that kind of thing. But it sounds like we're supposed to have the safety committee anyway, and we're somewhat negligent here by not having one.
We have it.
We do.
We do, it's just we don't have a fence viewer.
Is,
We don't have a fence viewer.
And
Well, so we need a fence viewer that we
Steve
don't.
Roulette was the other appointment.
And then we
so
need
don't
to
have a
appoint
quorum.
a select board member.
Select board member.
I'll volunteer to be the fence.
Well, so let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting so that we can make sure that we understand the scope of responsibility or whatever the bylaw says there. So I think that to Mr. Dorsey's original request, though, was this traffic study. So I don't know that there's any value in pursuing that, but I don't know. Does anybody want to talk about that?
Madam Chair, I have another issue that we haven't really touched upon, and that's the authority of the Planning Committee. They made this decision, and they're elected officials. They operate under statute. So I'm having difficulty, because in part because I've not run into this before in the 7 years I've been here, to where we would look at, say, the Planning Committee or Planning Board or the other committees we have in town, the Zoning Board of Appeals. And we have been very careful about getting involved with their business. And they were elected, and they have proven themselves again and again, in my view. They've done a lot of subdivisions. And I'm really asking the broader question of what is our authority really here to do? There's a thing about this viewing bylaw, but I don't know if that really does anything. At the end of the day, is it not true that it is the planning board that must decide where this goes?
Yes. We don't have any authority over the decisions of the planning board.
Then I'm in a little bit of a quandary to say, well, then why are we even discussing this in this forum?
Well, we're discussing it because a citizen made a request to discuss it, and he proposed an action for the board, and so we are discussing whether we're going to take action.
But we do
That's
have-
why we are talking about it.
But we do have a town bylaw that calls for the safety committee, which has us with a representative on it, and us appointing the second of the three representatives being the fence viewer. So, yes, there are some, I had the same sort of, not reservations, but cautions about, the independence and the fact that they're a separately elected board of the town. But there are some intersections and overlaps. When you look at the zoning board of appeal, we appoint the zoning board of appeal. They're not an elected body. So our so-called executive powers do bump up against some of these other independent autonomous boards.
Back to Mr. Brewer's point, my point of coming before you was to ask that you commission a study that would provide a true expert point of view about this problem. I maintain, through close analysis of the report that the applicant filed, that this report was deceptive. It was not filed, it was not reported by a certified, licensed person, even though it was stamped by an engineer who never set foot in Westport for the study. A close analysis of that traffic report shows that there were erroneous assumptions, and the applicant used that study to deceive the planning board, and the planning board did not carry out its due diligence with a proper peer review, and that's why we're here. My point is that if you commission a study by a true expert, a licensed, certified traffic engineer, to look at the situation with realistic approach to the prevailing traffic conditions, you'll come up, I believe you will come up with information, a new perspective on the situation that will enable the planning board to say, we have more accurate information, now we can rescind. If this goes to the land court where there's new information that the planning board is acting on, they will prevail. If they have a good reason to rescind, they will prevail. And that's the reason I'm doing this.
I kind of lost track of that, but there was, you had made a good point in there. And again, I lost track because there was so much going on, but I'll remember it later. So the committee, so his traffic study, I was in that meeting, and he requested the information from Mass DOT. So Mass DOT did not have any information. So the person that he should have requested the information from is which I believe we have a traffic representative in the police department that would have been able to provide the correct information on that intersection. So that's what I had found in the meetings, and I agree 100% on, this gentleman has put countless hours in on this, and to say it slipped through the and the planning board's getting kind of, in my opinion, maybe a bum rap, saying we didn't file it correctly, but I don't know. I haven't asked Amy, I haven't asked Michael why it wasn't filed correctly, but it could have been a clerical error in the clerk's office, and maybe it really isn't the planning board that made the mistake. I just think we need to do our due diligence on this.
But I don't know that it's in our scope to commission a study to be used for legal action. I think that if the planning board believed that they needed this sort of study or they needed additional information, that the planning board would hire the appropriate people. I don't think that it's in our authority to have a traffic, I mean, we could order a traffic study, but I don't think we could do anything with it once it came on. I know what you're saying, it would be more evidence, but that's I just think that's not in our control. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering, if I may, and if Mr. Whiten is willing to answer a question here, is the planning board amenable to this idea of a rescission and getting additional evidence and these?
I think that we're satisfied with what we have seen. And I just wanted to speak again about the mistake that was made, and it was approved by default with probably 8 different variances that we'd already worked through that we eliminated for the subdivision. So the applicant came before us and said, look, we'll reduce the number of lots to 7 from 9, and we will not ask for waivers except for the radius of the right-of-way going on to Drift Road. And we agreed to the amendment to the approved plan. It was already approved by default. So we agreed to the amendment so that the neighbors would have the ability to appeal this decision. And they opted not to appeal. And that's why we worked hard with the applicant to get to the point where, again, the neighbors could have the legal right to appeal. That is gone.
So I do want to put the safety committee discussion on a future agenda. Is there any other action that the board wants to take based on this?
I just, one question. Jim, can you get me a hard copy of the minutes that you released? The executive session minutes? Okay. I just need it printed up because I've got a little bit of problems with access on my emails.
All right, so I know it isn't what you wanted, but is there anything else on this topic? All right, thank you, Mr. Jaworski.
Thank you very much.
The other item of discussion is from the Offshore Wind Advisory Committee. We are in receipt of a letter from I don't remember if it's from the planning board or a planning board member. Do you want to talk about that, Jake? I didn't warn you in advance.
Sure, no, that's fine. So we recently, last Thursday evening, had our April meeting on the 24th, and we addressed this, obviously prior to it coming to the select board. And I think we, from our standpoint now with the planning board again, probably need to get some clarification given the makeup of that offshore wind committee. I know based on the letter that was sent to us, it basically said that they were asking the offshore wind committee to go into a indefinite recess until there was a Westport specific project on the docket. But in the meeting they had, the motion was to resign their seat on the offshore wind as well as ask us to go into recess. But the letter we received did not have anything about the resignation. So I think that would be one concern, is maybe we reach back out to the planning board to see if they want to continue to have a seat on that committee, since it is appointed by the select board here. We did make a decision as a committee unanimously to meet on a less than monthly basis. We're going to shoot for quarterly or more often as needed. So if there is a situation that arises, similar to last year with the blade failure, we can call a meeting sooner rather than later than the quarterly basis. But I think from a Offshore Wind Advisory Committee, the consensus among everyone was, first and foremost, there was a little bit of concern about the planning board trying to, change the scheduling of the committee. And then secondly, everyone was really on board to obviously keep the committee in place. I think it was a 3-year term for the committee, and everyone agreed that we should continue that, but not meeting on a monthly basis. So I believe it's probably solved itself. And I don't know if any action is needed here, but I do think we may want to follow up with the planning board. I know Jim's here, but I don't know if we want to get just a follow-up as to whether that seat remains vacant as a select board, or whether there will be a different appointment, or how that'll work, since it is in statute that you approved.
Right, so right now, John Bullard is the representative that was appointed, and he has not resigned. So he can resign, obviously, if he wants to.
And would that seat remain vacant, or would the planning board
That
have
would
to
be up
fill
to
it?
the planning board, yeah.
Okay.
They would decide.
So then officially, we should get a letter from them or from John Bullard resigning, and then let the planning board at next meeting figure out their course, or?
That was my recommendation, but Jim's going to.
I would think that it would stay as it is unless you do get a resignation letter from John.
Yeah. Does anybody have, so that was the update. So I'm also on that committee, and I agree with Jake. We agreed to meet quarterly. We didn't think we need to meet every month. Is there anything else we want to talk about for that?
Madam Chair, I agree with the idea that the committee will still go on. I think we need it, because you never know what's going to happen in the spinning world out there, and I think it's a good thing to have, and you can meet as often as you want.
I just want to, we've had some really good presentations from scientists. We had 2 scientists at the last meeting that gave some really informative presentations. So I would really encourage people to go watch those, because they're really good learning opportunities.
And that's what I think we hope to accomplish, is getting a little bit more science-based evidence for our future meetings. And to your point, I think the last meeting was probably the best one we've had. It was very informative, a lot of interaction with the crowd and with committee members. So I hope that moves forward in that fashion. I think the previous meetings, we had the state in, and then we had Vineyard Offshore, so it can also get contentious, with respect to that. But I think the purpose of it's there. I think we're one of the very few communities in Massachusetts, or maybe the only one, that currently has that committee set up. So I think that's going to be helpful in the future. As we've been stating, I believe there might be a 3-year pause on some of the stuff that would impact Westport, but you don't know what would happen in a new administration or with new projects out there. As people see, you go down to the beach, and there are still projects going on as we speak. So I think having the committee there to, and that was the other thing that we did learn the other day, is that it may help in kind of a response rate, and maybe getting answers back from a Vineyard Offshore or any of the other companies that are involved out there with a blade failure or with something catastrophic that could happen and impact Westport. So I think it's good to keep it, and I think we're probably on the right course with that.
All right, anything else? Constance, did you want to say?
Again, I would like to reiterate what Jake had just said about seeking clarification from the planning board as to their status. I clearly heard when I watched the recording of the planning board meeting that they said that they did not want to be associated with the committee at all, and they did not want to have a representative from the planning board on the committee. So that sounds like a resignation to me, but it would be very helpful, I think, to have very specific clarification from the planning board and from Mr. Bullard himself.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay. We do have, I forgot to announce this at the beginning of the meeting, we do have a topic not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance. Is anybody here for something before that? I was going to skip down to that.
Sean, I do have another one that would be under unanticipated business.
All right, so let's just go through the agenda then. So the town administrator report?
So local aid, the state is currently working through their budget process. The governor has submitted her proposal. That proposal has gone to the House. The House recently approved their proposal, and now it's headed to the Senate.
Not yet.
Not yet?
House is still in session, and the House is voting on amendments to the budget. So right now, what is happening in the House is the House is considering amendments to the budget that was filed by the House Ways and Means.
House Ways and Means.
And right now, they're in deliberations, and they're meeting, they met today, they're meeting tomorrow, and likely meeting Wednesday as well.
So the cherry sheets did come out. It does state the House budget, that's why, but it's still going through the process. And on that House budget that came through the state, estimated receipts increased by about 64,000. The estimated assessments and charges also increased by 26,000, so there's a net gain of about 38. We're still early in the process, and as we've seen over the years, this could go up a little bit, it could also go down, so we don't know where those final numbers are going to go. But what it does do, it gives us a little bit more reassurance that at least our budget estimates going to town meeting are consistent with the governor's and the House budgets. And the big numbers such as Chapter 70, school choice, charter schools are usually pretty consistent throughout the process, so we hope they stay the same. Town meeting, again, you mentioned this earlier, but May 6th, Tuesday of next week at 7 o'clock at the new middle high school. The proposed budget for FY26 and the posted town meeting warrant is on the town website. It can be viewed by anybody that goes on. If anybody does have any questions on any of the warrant articles or on the budget, they're welcome to call the Selectman's office or the department that sponsored those articles, and we will try to address your questions prior to town meeting. We might be able to give you more information ahead of time. It's difficult sometimes at town meeting to address questions on the floor. Superintendent search, I see a couple of school committee members, well, there was two. We still got two committee members here.
Christopher, your flashlight is on.
Search committee has recommended two finalists for consideration by the school committee. Public interviews are scheduled for April 30th. Unless something has changed, there's two finalists. Dr. Rizi Namin, currently serving superintendent of the Maine Indian Educational District, and Dr. Fran Roy, who's had a number of educational positions, and she's currently a professor at Stonehill College. I think you've invited the community to attend those interviews if anybody is interested. Route 177 projects, we have two projects along Route 177 that have been ongoing for quite some time. Gifford Road and Route 177, the intersection. Town recently received preliminary comments from Mass DOT on the initial submission. In response, Power Engineering has completed revisions to the plans and supporting materials. They're updating the package now, and they'll resubmit to Mass DOT for further review next week. This is being submitted to Mass DOT as a permit and not like a transportation improvement type design project, which we're doing with Route 177, Robert Tickle Road. That is actually a full-fledged project that goes through the full design with Mass DOT. It takes about 4 to 6 years to get through that design process, and the design requirements tend to change over the years, and that's what's happened again to us. Recently, Mass DOT has requested additional test pits and lighting design. The engineering company was hoping, as they have done on previous projects, that they could use the existing lighting standards from Mass DOT that were done on other projects and use that for this, but Mass DOT has requested a different design. So currently looking to identify another funding source. We're probably going to need about $12,000 to get that additional work done. I should have something by the next meeting as to where those funds are.
All right, thank you. We have the minutes from April 14.
Most, I actually approved them in advance, so
So you would move to approve.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Did somebody abstain?
I did.
You, Manny abstained. Report on the bill warrant?
Looking good. Little larger number, 3.5 million. And there's some big ticket items in there like county tax, a couple $100,000. MRL bus, 149,000. And then PFAS. Now, you probably will ask the question, why is that in here when we're getting money? Well, it's because this is the way we account for that. We put it in as a debit and then credit it out. So that's $729,000. And the MAC loop, in addition to that, was $166,000. But everything was in order, and all set.
Thank you. So next item we had is liaison committee reports or suggestions for future agenda items. Can we just start with you, Craig?
Affordable Housing Trust, we are or have released a new RFP for land acquisition. We're looking for upwards of 30-acre parcels with the ability to have 8 usable acres as part of that. And what would happen is that some of these parcels may be landlocked or potential use for open space and land conservation purposes. But we're still, we've been encouraged by the Community Planning Committee to look more aggressively at larger developments than what we have been doing in the last couple of years, and this RFP honors that interest. So,
Okay, thank you.
and then, Donna, you're here. Is there anything new since we last met of the opioid settlement advisory committee? I don't think we have that, have we?
We're working on getting more community input. Valerie is setting up some questionnaires to be sent to several different entities, one being physicians and therapists to get their input on how best the funds could be utilized. We're hoping to have one done so that it could be sent school district-wide, so we can get input from teachers and the parents, especially the parents. And then one for people who are struggling with substance use and opioid addiction. So Val has worked on those, and we will be hopefully getting those out to stakeholders soon.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, Dick?
The only thing that I have to mention is really the Stroke Buddies with the Council on Aging. I attended their meeting last week, and we went over the details as they did for us here. They did make an appeal, since I'll be out of town this weekend, if maybe one of the select board members could appear at that, at least for part of the event on Saturday. I just throw that out for.
I have already confirmed with them
Okay,
that I will be there.
great,
so Thank you.
I'm out of state this weekend.
Yeah, I'm also out of state this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about first weekend in May, but anyway. And the other thing is, we do have Tony Roselli, the town auditor, coming into the next meeting of the audit committee, which is next Monday. And of course, after that, he'll appear here either on the screen or in person and give his update. The next meeting of CERTA is coming up shortly, and we're talking about the budget. And that's about it from my end.
Right, the only committee I had was offshore wind that we just talked about, so nothing for me.
Yeah, the only thing I had was the Infrastructure Oversight Committee. We had Wednesday, April the 16th meeting that I was scheduled to attend. However, I was detained and I was unable to make it, so I guess I'll have to maybe I'll have something for the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Jake?
Same thing, just the offshore wind. We covered that earlier, so we're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're at the portion for comments and statements from the public. Anybody from the public have a comment? We have public here today. We have 4 whole public here.
I do. Come on. Okay, so I'm Donna Amaral from the Board of Health, and I just wanted to let everyone know you're going to be seeing signs up again around town that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I just wanted to inform the public that there's going to be 3 events that are scheduled for the month of May. The first one is on May 7th, and it's Helping Teens Understanding the Connection Between Mental Health and Substance Use. And I have two speakers. One of them is from Child and Family Services, and he's a certified, a licensed drug and alcohol counselor. And then I have another speaker whose specialty is doing research on marijuana and the teen brain. And I was lucky to get Sarah Thomas, a PhD, licensed psychologist and assistant professor at the Department of Psychiatry and Human Behavior at the Alpert Medical School of Brown University, come and speak. So I really hope that people will come to hear her research. And also to hear Dean Blackburn, who is also going to speak about how to help kids when they're struggling with either mental health issues or substance use issues. And that is going to be on the day after the town meeting, so I'm sure everybody will be refreshed and they'll want to come to this presentation. But it's from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the Middle High School auditorium. And then there are two other events. One is on May 16th, and that's at the Council on Aging from 10 to 11:30, and it's going to be on a topic called Loneliness, a Silent Epidemic, which I will be running. And it is free and open to all adults, and there'll be light refreshments. And it's not just a presentation, but it's a discussion. So I hope people will come to that as well. And then on Saturday, May 17th, there'll be another presentation at the library. That'll be from 10 to 12 noon. And it will be called Create Your Best Self, Empowering Mental Health with Applied Neuroscience. And there is a presenter who is an expert in neurosensory emotional wellness life coach and certified in havening techniques. And it's a tool to help people to cope when they're feeling stressed. So I hope that people will be able to come to at least one of these events. And I thank you for letting me spread the word and to make sure that people are aware that it is a public health issue. Mental health is a public health issue, and that's why I am here as a representative of the Board of Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Anything else from the public? So we do have a topic under the, or it sounds like we have two topics. So we have a topic under the under 48 hours in advance. So we have a request from Matt Armendo, the Board of Health Director, to post a transfer station foreman position, both in-house and externally, simultaneously. Jim, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, we just had an employee that departed over the weekend. It's a critical position. If we don't fill it, we're paying extra to other departments to cover overtime to bring any of the dumpsters and the trash containers to the waste yard. So the sooner we can get this filled, the better. I'd suggest or recommend that the board allow us to post that position in-house and out.
What's the pleasure?
I move that recommendation.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just quick, is this the second turnover in the foreman that we've had?
It's probably more than that. We've had a number of people in and out of this position over the last year or two.
Yeah.
The select board did increase the salary a couple of months ago, which
Yeah.
I think made it more attractive, but, these employees can go elsewhere and make significantly more.
Particularly if they have a CDL license, right?
Yeah. And don't have to work weekends.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Do you have another one?
Yeah, just before the meeting, I spoke to Jim concerning the Hicksbridge Landing. That's an issue that was kind of brought to my attention last week on the Conservation Commission when I know there's been kind of a land dispute between the Masons and the town of Westport there. Obviously, last year it led to them blocking off the access point on the upper level of that. I went and had some discussions with the Masons on my own, and I think there's an opportunity for us to maybe reopen this and maybe have some good faith efforts to bring this to fruition and maybe find a solution that's amicable to everyone in town. As we know, that town landing is used by rowers, kayakers, boaters, fishermen and all that. So I think this is right now probably more of a safety concern with that entrance and exit as where it's located. So I believe that maybe in the past there was a little bit of miscommunication with trying to come to a resolution, and we might be at a kind of a new day to address that and, maybe come to a solution that everyone can be happy with. I know that the Masons did have a meeting on Thursday evening, and they agreed that they would reopen looking at this situation. If there's something with the town that we can work with them on, I recommend maybe just putting forth a committee. In the crowd here is Jason Powell. He's intimately involved with obviously the safety concerns as a boater and going in and out of that landing quite often with a boat and a trailer, and has worked with me to kind of spearhead hopefully coming to a solution on this. And Madam Chair, I don't know if Jason had any words or
Yeah, so when Jake mentioned this the other day, and then Jason has been pretty adamant about this. So what I asked them to do is talk to Jim, because Jim had been in negotiations with the Masons before. I don't think we want a formal committee or anything. I think we want to work through you, Jim. But I'm perfectly happy to have Jake talking to them with someone else. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, don't we have a new design? We're in the works of a new design?
So, yeah, Jim can answer that, obviously.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how far along the design is, right? We had a
I saw some pretty good preliminary stuff. I mean, I'm hoping we're bringing that to the Masons, bringing them in with this.
So the preliminary design, the original preliminary design used the access going over the Masons' property. We had trouble, we couldn't reach an agreement last year, and it'd be great if things changed, because that would be ideal if we could use that for access. When we couldn't, I believe, through the planning office, they went back to the engineer and they were looking at redesigning it so that we would just use the existing entrance and not use the Mason property.
Now, the Mason property was that, how did the Masons come to having this property?
It's as far as I can tell, they've always owned it. The driveway was just built over their property. Jeff Bull at the time did quite a bit of research. We couldn't find any easement. There's nothing recording. There was no minutes of the previous meetings as to how we got access or use of that driveway.
I think maybe we should have KP Law do a title on the property and see.
Well, let's start by reopening the conversation with the Masons and see what they're willing to talk about. I mean, I think you're right, that we need to find out. But it sounds like we already did a lot of work to try to find that.
Well, I don't think we.
We didn't do an official title, but
I think that's how you do it, but.
the information that we did have, it appeared that, we didn't own the property.
It's not always how it appears.
Agreed?
All right, so Jim, you're going to reopen that.
Yes. We can.
And I don't know if Jason had a
Jason,
comment.
do you want to say something?
He has a lot of historical.
You didn't have any public comment. You were waiting. No, you go to.
He was waiting for this.
So, I like the new desk. I haven't been to one of these in a while.
It's Diamond students built this.
Yeah, that's great. I think my family's 5 excise tax bills probably. So, there are a few issues there, and there are issues probably to be discussed, down the road. I reached out to the police chief, who then turned me on to Lieutenant Mello, who is the police department traffic representative, and we met at the ramp yesterday. And we went through a scenario where, someone pulled the boat out of the water, and based upon the current plan, you'd have to make a hairpin turn within that lot area and then come back out and merge on to Hicksbridge Road. And, Lieutenant Mello, I think, will be reaching out to you folks, and he agreed 100% that the current plan is just not, it's untenable, it's unsafe. So hopefully we work something out with the Masonic Lodge, but I think the entrance exit issue is going to take care of itself, because public safety won't sign off on the current plan. It was just, that plan should have been presented to you folks long before it came before us on Concom, because the Board of Selectmen owns the vast majority of that property. So it's probably not within the purview entirely of the Landing Commission. I think you folks should be involved in that, because you own the majority of the land. And more importantly, and probably more urgently, is the potential grant money that may or may not have been applied for, acquired, spent. I've been in the boat business for a long time, and I've been part of a lot of boat ramp reconstruction projects. And generally, when the state spends money on site work or ramp repair, that property then becomes accessible to everyone within the Commonwealth. And it's hard to describe that ramp as a gem because it's kind of a disaster right now, but it's ours and we control it. And I would just like for us to make sure that whatever funds are being used, they're being acquired the right way, we know the strings that are attached. And if we have used funds in error, we should probably return them, because if we lose exclusive access to that property, we'll never get it back, and then no one in town will have a place to park a boat or trailer. So, we can deal with the Masonic Lodge, we can deal with the plan, we can deal with all of that down the road, but I would just beg you to look into what funds have been acquired and how those funds may or may not have been used, and if we have used them inappropriately, can we send them back and just acknowledge that we made maybe a mistake?
Right, so can you find out some more about that and report back?
I mean, because basically, we don't want it to turn into a state ramp.
Correct.
Correct.
Which is, I think is a great idea. But I do know that the layout plan, however they got it, solved all the issues that we need to deal with, conservation-wise. So, again, I don't think it was that much money for the plan. It's something that we could probably do a lot of the work in-house so that we could keep it, but it did set it up correctly. We need to do some pavements for stormwater management, and it puts the lines for the boat trailers to park, it puts the access in, and I think if we work with the Masonic Lodge on that, maybe we could come up with some kind of, and if we have to do some kind of fundraiser, there's a lot of local guys that's all I hear is complaints about that boat ramp, and the Board of Health, I've had, I can't count the number of complaints about the Porta-John over there. And I've witnessed it myself throughout the season. You can't even use it. It's not being picked up on time, and I'm talking people that have been in here for generations and using that land in it for generations.
All right, so Jim's
Constantly.
gonna look into that, and Jake is
Yeah.
gonna work with Jim.
Perfect.
And they'll come back with more information.
Yeah, I think maybe we could have it as an agenda item next month of what we can find out, working with Jason and others to, I think the concern from the Masonic Lodge was a liability concern, and then also, if it does go to the state and you're allowing an easement, does that create even more issues for them? So I think we can reopen discussions and have and take it on as more of a select board project, and hopefully come to a conclusion. If it's a one-year deal where we use the internal, the entrance and exit that's already there, and let the, Chris Gonzalez and the Highway Department smooth it out and make it right, and then we do more of a long-term plan, maybe that's a quick solution, but I think we can come up with hopefully something.
Okay, well, we look forward to what you come back with.
Thank you.
I got one more thing, since we have the Board of Health here. I made some mention on a couple of properties that I own in illegal dumping in that area. Did you mention any of that to Madam Mendo?
I did. I gave that to Matt, I think, on Thursday or Friday. He looked into it, and he was going to follow up with me tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
If you're gonna go out there, give me a call, please.
I think he's already been out there.
Okay.
so we are going to go into executive session. We're gonna come out of executive session only to adjourn. We won't conduct any further business. I will entertain a motion pursuant to the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, where the chair declares an open meeting will have a detrimental effect to A, approve the minutes of April 14, 2025, and B, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel.
I, Craig Dutra, move we go into an executive sessions for the reasons as stated.
I, Richard Brewer, second that motion.
So all in favor? Craig, I'm going to start with you.
I, Craig Dutra.
Richard Brewer, aye.
Aye, Shauna Tees.
And also as I.
Jake McWigan.
All right, we are in executive session.